friends, Heidi here from Rain Country, and today I'm going to make hamburger mac and cheese. And I'm also going to be giving you some various options of other ways you can make it to tailor it to suit you and your needs. But this is going to be a fairly healthy way to make your mac and cheese and as organic and natural as possible. So let's get started. Now if you hear something running in the other room, that's just my dehydrator. I've got it hooked up to solar power, and I did go out and collect some dandelion flowers, a whole bunch more lemon balm, lots more than I showed in that one video, and some nice dandelion leaves. And I'm going to use some of these real big ones fresh. Well, they're not going to be real fresh, but I'm using, instead of dehydrating these ones, I'm using them straight into my macaroni and cheese. This will be the first time I've done it this way, but every single time I make macaroni and cheese, I always like to try something different. So, and then right here I have stinging nettle that I just picked, and I'm going to be adding that in too. So I'm going to be putting on these massive rubber gloves. I bought new ones because my other ones wore out, and still they're massive. You know, I looked all over Amazon because I knew their local stores I couldn't find rubber gloves, kitchen gloves, in an extra small, so I looked on Amazon, and apparently there's none available in extra small. There's no such thing. So if anyone knows where I could find some rubber kitchen gloves in extra small, that would be very cool. So anyway, I'm just cutting up, I'm putting on the gloves just so I can cut up the stinging nettle. And one of the reasons I wanted to use this today was just to show you another way you can use your stinging nettle. You don't have to dehydrate it. As long as it's cooked, heated in some way, it's going to take out the chemicals, or nullify them anyway, that cause the itching and burning to your skin. So what I have in my pan over here is some Kerrygold grass-fed butter, which is my very favorite butter. And it's already melted, and so I'm going to be adding all my vegetables that I want to saute for a little bit into there. So taking off the massive gloves, and now I'm going to cut up the dandelions, and then I have just a little bit of fresh picked thyme because my thyme from last year is still trying to come back. This is some new thyme I bought this year, and I want to get it to start bushing out, so I went ahead and picked some. So I'm going to pull off some of these leaves. I don't worry about some of the stem getting in there. I just don't like the really tough parts in there. Or even if they are, try to break them up. And I'm going to go ahead and cut up the dandelion leaves. I'll also be adding some onion, some brown mushrooms. These are just my favorite type of mushrooms right here. And some garlic some garlic slices to what I'm starting right now. So I'm going to go ahead and move on. Well, my pan ended up a lot more full than I thought it would, but knowing that the stinging nettle, the dandelion leaves, and the mushrooms are all going to cook down quite a ways, I'm just going to go ahead and saute like this. I may add a little bit of my homemade raisin vinegar to it to just add a little bit more moisture. I have my vegetables that you just saw me cutting up, sauteing on the wood stove in the other room. I have my 1 pound of grass-fed ground beef browning in a pan in there on the wood stove. Now I am going to go ahead and use my hot plate in here, plugged into the solar power, to cook this part here. And so what I have here is 1 pound of previously frozen cauliflower. Now I prefer to buy my cauliflower frozen. It's just easier for me that way. I stock up on it when it goes on sale, and then I'll buy a bunch of bags and then throw them in the freezer. So I let it thaw most of the way, and then I cut the pieces up just a little smaller. This right here is a good size, but I don't mind them a little bigger, even like that. Well, I don't know, it's a little big. I'll cut this up a little bit smaller. And just whatever size you prefer. Now, if you're wanting to go gluten-free, grain-free, skip the pasta. Just use the cauliflower. Throw in another pound if you want to. But for me, I like to have at least some pasta. I love my pasta, especially the Montebello brand. This is made in Italy. It's all organic. This is the best pasta I've ever had. And I bought mine on Amazon. You can find it there. I'll link to some below. However, you're going to find it cheaper if you have a Trader Joe's or some other health food store near you. Now, when we get into the big town, and if I need pasta, I'll try to stock up in there when I can, because it's just a better price. But at any rate, the Montebello pasta, my personal favorite. So and I'm going to only be using half a bag, so 8 ounces of the pasta for us. You can vary this however you want, however much pasta to cauliflower, but make sure you at least try experimenting with putting the cauliflower to replace some of the noodles, because this is going to be healthier for you. So I'm going to set those aside. My water's heating up, and I'm going to get on to the sauce. I'm ready to start making the sauce, and I'm going to be using, and I don't typically measure this out, some of the organic heavy whipping cream, since I'm all out of half and half. I'll say about a half cup. It's going to be pretty rich. That's actually more of a cup. And then I'm going to add some milk, about another cup of milk. So there we go. There's your half and half. Now I'll most likely be adding more milk to this later, but this is what I want to start out with for now. So what I have here is my tapioca starch, and I'm going to be putting in a 1/4 cup of this, and this will help it thicken up when I go to cook it. But you want to make sure this is the first thing you do, is you mix your tapioca starch or your arrowroot powder. The amounts are the same, a 1/2 cup or a 1/2 cup of either, or not a 1/2 cup, excuse me, a 1/4 cup, and mixing it into your cold milk, or half and half. You can use just milk. I just find that when I use half and half, or do the milk with the whipping cream, it just makes it more yummy and wonderful. As long as it's organic, especially if you can get the grass-fed kind, boy, so good. So I just want to blend that real well. I have a smaller whisk, but I can't find it. When I'm doing stuff like this, I like my small whisk, and I can only find my big one, so I'm using my big fork instead. My big whisk is just too big for this. Okay, so to that, now, what I do like to add from time to time is my own homegrown dehydrated tomatoes, but I just got these out so I could show you. These are really good in it, but today I just don't really feel like using them, so I'm going to leave that out. The great thing about macaroni and cheese is that you can do whatever you want to it. Anything. Whatever flavor sounds good to you at the time. And I change it up every time. So putting in my red pepper flakes. I could put more. However, I'm going to use my dehydrated jalapenos. And I'm putting these right in here now because I want them to, you know, I want them to sit in the liquid and rehydrate some. I add some granulated garlic. Oh, at least a tablespoon or more. And I do have my noodles and my cauliflower cooking over here while I'm doing this. Alright, now for color, you've got a few options. And you can use the turmeric. I like the turmeric in it. It's very, very good for you. But I find it makes it just too yellow for my taste to use just the turmeric. So I find using a combination of paprika and the turmeric is really good. But last time I tried this, I tried just putting a little bit of curry in it for flavor, and it was pretty good. So I'm going to start with just the curry and the paprika and see what kind of color I get this time before I add any turmeric. And who knows, I may leave the turmeric out. I put in about a teaspoon of each. So I'm going to taste it and see what I think and see if I can add more. And it's not like you have to have color. I mean, cheese is white. The only reason cheese is ever orange is because it's had color of some sort added to it. So it should be white anyway. But we're used to seeing our macaroni and cheese have a little color to it, right? I realized I didn't add my salt, so I'm using some Himalayan pink salt, about a teaspoon, maybe a little bit better than that. And I've decided I'm really liking the flavor of the paprika and the curry together, and I'm going to add a little bit more. Oh man, it's so good. Another thing I like to add is like mushrooms. You saw me putting the mushrooms in there. That's not something I always do. It's just a once in a while thing. Every once in a while. I love mushrooms, but I don't, just like the tomatoes, I don't always like them in my macaroni and cheese. But today I was in the mood for mushrooms and not tomatoes. Olives is another thing. If you like black olives are excellent in this, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to go ahead and add some black olives. But I'm not going to put that, just like the cheese, I'm not going to put that in yet. Okay, so I'm going to taste this again. I don't know, I think it still needs a little bit more. I'm really, really liking the taste of the curry and the paprika together. What an amazing flavor this is making, at least as far as I'm concerned. So you see what I'm doing here. Now remember, Mr. Rain and I like a lot of flavor. So you might be the kind of person that likes your food a little bit more bland, and you may just want to leave both of these out. But I tell you what, all of this stuff, the curry, the paprika, or even the turmeric if you use it, the peppers, all of that stuff packs such a powerful punch. I didn't mean to use so many peas. That you know, if you can get them in there, get them in there. So good for you. Okay, so I'm going to probably call this good. I don't want to go overboard, but I'm just crazy about this flavor. So you get to actually see me experimenting while I'm doing this. Even though I make this kind of stuff a lot, because I do it different every time, you get to see one of my many experiments. Alright, I need to go check on my vegetables and see how they're coming along, see if they're softened enough, and check on the meat. And I'm letting the noodles and the cauliflower, you know, get cooked through, and then when all that's ready, I'll show you what I do next. So my vegetables are mostly cooked down right now. This is good for my next step, good enough for my next step, and that is I'm going to go ahead and add my mixture here to the vegetables. Okay, I don't want to leave anything behind here. This is a lot of good stuff right here. Now what I'm going to do with this is take this back in and put it on the wood stove and let this thicken up. Notice I'm still not adding my cheese yet. We will get to that. Okay, so I'll be back when this is ready for the cheese. Alright, so here is my pan of the noodles, the cauliflower, about half a pound of ground beef. I don't know if I'm going to add the rest of that pound or not. And most of a can of black olives. This is probably about 4-5 ounces of black olives. I may put more in there. I just don't know yet. Sometimes I don't know until I get it all mixed together. Again, all of this is optional. The meat, if you're a vegetarian, just leave it out. If you don't like black olives, just leave them out. This is just one of the many ways I like to do this. And now here is my sauce. It's pretty well thick. Got lots of good vegetables and stuff in it. And normally to this I would add in my mixed greens blend, but since I've already got the stinging nettle and the dandelions in there, I decided to leave it out. Now what I have here is an 8-ounce brick of the Organic Valley cheese that I had previously frozen. And it is now very well thawed, maybe a little too much. And in case you didn't know about frozen cheese, once you've frozen it, it just crumbles up really, really easy. So you don't even have to grate it. You see that? Look how easy that is. So I'm going to put that whole 8-ounce brick. And I did not add any more milk to this. It's almost looking a little bit too thick for blending. But I'm going to give it a try. If it looks like it's going to be too hard to blend it in with my mix. Because I never measure this stuff out, typically. I'm just trying to go by measurements as much as possible for people who are following me that appreciate that. I usually just go by, you know what, I'm not going to add any more. Look at that. That's going to be great. I'm going to have a very full pan. Now, the reason I don't cook the cheese into the sauce is if you get it too warm or cook it too much, you're going to have your cheese separate, and you don't want that to happen. So this is very full. So I'm just going to kind of gently blend it in there. I could go a little more vigorously if this wasn't so full. And then you can choose if you want it extra cheesy. The 8 ounces is usually plenty. However, a lot of times we just like a lot of cheese. I love cheese. I'm a cheeseaholic. Cheese is one of my very favorite things. Then you can take another 8-ounce brick and then put as much or as little of this crumbled on top as you want. I'm going to use maybe just a couple of ounces. We'll see what it looks like. We'll start with approximately 2 ounces here. And crumble it around on top. Oh heck, why not a couple more? Well, that's going to make 12 ounces of cheese right there. That looks pretty good. Okay, so there you have it. There's some homemade, from scratch, hamburger mac and cheese. Again, please feel free to take this recipe and vary it however you want. Replace all of the noodles with nothing but cauliflower, or maybe even cauliflower and broccoli if you don't mind the color green in there. I mean, I've got stinging nettle and dandelion leaves in here. I like color in my macaroni and cheese. You can leave out the mushrooms if you don't like mushrooms, and replace it with the dried tomatoes. Whatever you want to do, just experiment and have fun with it like I do, because I like to try it different every time. Try something different in there. So what I'm going to do with this is about an hour, half hour to an hour before Mr. Rain comes home, I'm going to put this towards the back of the wood stove. I'm going to have the wood stove, it's May for crying out loud, and I'm still having burned fires. It's been very cold here this year, but at any rate, I'm going to put this towards the back. I'm keeping my fire burning as, cool as I can. And so depending how hot it is, it'll be anywhere from a half an hour to an hour for it to get heated all the way through and all the cheese on top nicely melted. And it's that simple. So if you're going to bake this in a conventional oven or a toaster oven, I would say about 20 minutes at 350 approximately. You could probably even go lower than that. You don't want to go higher than 400. You're just trying to heat it through. So, all right. Go ahead. I can clip it out like I always do. Or not. I might just leave it.
Really?
So there you have it. Hamburger mac and cheese, the Rain Country way. Thanks for watching. Take care, and God bless.